Alison was a communications and policy advisor for the New South Wales Parliament and has worked in the non-government sector in Indonesia.
Gerindra atau Gerakan Indonesia Raya dibentuk pada tahun 2009 oleh mantan Jenderal TNI Prabowo Subianto. Pemilu pertama untuk partai ini adalah pemilu tahun 2009 di mana mereka memperoleh 26 kursi. Sambutlah Gerindra!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Prabowo Subianto and I am honoured to be your presidential candidate for the Great Indonesian Movement Party, otherwise known as GERINDRA. Now, apologies for my boring entrance. Those of you who attended my campaign rally last week would have seen me swoop over Jakarta's Bung Karno Stadium in my helicopter before taking to my open-top Jeep and jumping up on my beloved horse to inspect hundreds of flag bearers. But for some reason, you all love Jokowi's dull, man of the people style, and so I've been advised to adopt his approach. Speaking of Joko, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome my opponents. And since we all know that this is a contest only between myself and Joko, no offence guys, I'm going to focus on him. You know, everybody is always asking me what I think about the Jokowi phenomenon. And I say, I love the Jokowi phenomenon, I created it. Now some of you might not be aware that it was I, Prabowo Subianto, the former head of Indonesia's Special Forces Kopassus, who deigned to support your beloved Joko's rise to power. It was I who bankrolled his gubernatorial campaign in Jakarta, I who funded his grassroots campaigning, his viral One Direction video, I who paid for his check shirt that became the internet meme. Now others in my position might feel a little betrayed, but as a great leader, I feel provoked to action. As I was provoked to action back in 2008 when I resigned from the Golkar Party and created the GERINDRA Party. As I said at the time, I did this because I believe GERINDRA better suits my vision to deliver socialism rather than capitalism to Indonesia. Now, some of you who may be aware of my role in the Suharto regime, you may be surprised to hear that I'm actually a big supporter of democracy. In fact, I love democracy so much, I once tried to overthrow a president to get it for myself. Now, in 2009, I ran for vice presidency as part of Megawati Sukarno Putri's campaign for president. The GERINDRA Party won 4.5% of the vote at those legislative elections and 26 seats in the People's Representative Council. GERINDRA is expected to be one of the top 3 parties at this election, and with the support of my brother, we're also one of the richest. Now, I do acknowledge we're unlikely to win enough support at the upcoming legislative elections to make the threshold required to elect a president, and therefore I will say now that I'm willing to form a coalition. GERINDRA has a membership of 15 million with our base of support across Java, Sumatra, Sulawesi and Kalimantan. I personally have support at the grassroots level, so it's not just you, Joko, as well as among powerful businessmen and, unsurprisingly, retired military commanders. GERINDRA's manifesto is clear. We promise to create prosperity, social justice and political order based on Pancasila, Indonesia's state ideology, and the original 1945 constitution. How will we do this? Number 1, we must eradicate corruption, which deprives our government of billions of dollars in revenue. The government claims that we have a strong economy, and yet 50% of our population is living below the poverty line. Where is all the money going, I ask you? Corruption. GERINDRA will make farmers the centrepiece of our push to revitalise the economy and to create a people's economy. We will boost funding for agriculture tenfold. We will cut dependence on food imports, limit the export of natural resources, and foster foreign investment and Indonesian nationalism. We will also introduce a free 12-month compulsory education system. 12 years, sorry. That sounds better. Now, although my economic policies have been described as socialist, I also support a strong US presence in the region, and I would like to see more US participation in our economy. Now, some of you might be wondering what sort of relationship I would have with the US, and I will say that I'm becoming very frustrated with the smear campaign that's been perpetrated against me. You may have heard the allegations that I was responsible for the abduction and torture of pro-democracy activists and for orchestrating the riots of May 1998 in the days before the fall of President Suharto, my former father-in-law. Or perhaps you've heard the claims that I sponsored anti-independence militias in East Timor. You may have also heard that Indonesia's Human Rights Commission wants to see me prosecuted. And perhaps you're also aware, and this is my personal favourite, that in the year 2000 I became the first person to ever be denied entry to the US under the UN's Convention Against Torture. I will say now, this is all part of a defamation campaign. When you serve as a soldier in the highest echelons, you will be subject to these sorts of accusations. But we do not seek leaders who are warm and cuddly, my friends. Let me ask you this, does anyone in this room want to give Tony Abbott a cuddle? And so, in response to these allegations, I say yes. Yes, I have been blacklisted from the US. And do you know who else was blacklisted from the US? Nelson Mandela. Am I not in good company, my friends? And this brings me to the matter of my X Factor. Now, my ego is such that I find it difficult to choose just one. I have so many. GERINDRA has so many. That's fine. I could tell you that my X Factor is our party's eagle mascot, Mascaruda, with his spandex yellow leggings and his slogans. But if I must choose just one X Factor, it is that I have the gravitas of a true leader. Indonesia must take a strong role in our region in the face of an increasingly powerful China. Australia is repeatedly encroaching on our sovereign territory in its attempts to stop the boats. Now I ask you this, do you want a skinny celebrity who looks good in check shirts in charge of your borders? Do you imagine that the person best equipped to protect our sovereignty would be a One Direction impersonator? Or do you think it would be a military leader? A leader who has shown that he has a firm hand when necessary. Yes, a leader who has been accused of war crimes, of torture and shocking atrocity. Yes, a leader who has been banned from the US, but a leader nonetheless. Ladies and gentlemen, I dream of a greater Indonesia, and I ask that you will dream with me. Salam Indonesia Raya. Thank you.